If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Sharing it with your friends and family helps spread knowledge. And when we help others grow, we grow too. Thank you so much for listening. Let's dive into the podcast. The Vanishing President, the night of the secret meeting, the warm California evening of February 20th, 1954, started like any other during President Eisenhower's winter vacation in Palm Springs. The leader of the free world was enjoying a peaceful break from Washington's pressures. Then, something strange happened. Without warning, Eisenhower vanished. The press corps noticed first. One moment the president was there, the next he was gone. Hours passed with no word. Reporters grew restless. Phone calls went unanswered. The man who commanded America's military had simply disappeared into the desert night. By morning, panic set in among the journalists. Where was the president? Was he safe? Had something terrible happened? The questions multiplied like wildfire. Then came the official explanation. A dental emergency, they said. The president had chipped a tooth and needed urgent treatment. He was taken to a local dentist in the middle of the night. Nothing more to see here. But something felt wrong about this story. The dentist they claimed to visit later seemed confused when asked about the emergency. Local hospitals had no record of treating the president. The timeline didn't match witness accounts. People who saw the presidential motorcade that night swore it headed in the wrong direction entirely. Instead of going toward town for dental care, the convoy appeared to race toward Edwards Air Force Base. This massive military installation sat in the Mojave Desert, home to America's most secret aircraft tests. Why would a man with a broken tooth need to visit one of the country's most classified locations? Workers at Edwards later whispered about unusual activity that night. Extra security appeared from nowhere. Strange lights moved across the runway. Aircraft that didn't match any known designs were spotted in hangars normally kept empty. One base employee claimed he saw the presidential limousine arrive under heavy guard. Another reported seeing figures in dark suits walking toward a restricted area where civilians never went. Radio chatter increased dramatically, but all communications were quickly classified. The official dental story began to crumble under closer examination. The president's regular dentist knew nothing about any emergency. Medical records showed no dental work performed that weekend. Even the Secret Service seemed uncomfortable when pressed for details. What really happened during those missing hours? Why did the most powerful man in America need to visit a secret military base in the dead of night? And why did everyone involved seem so determined to keep the truth hidden? The answers would remain buried in classified files for decades, but the whispers never stopped. Something momentous occurred that February night, something that would change the course of American history forever. The first contact, meeting the Nordic ambassadors. The meeting room felt different that cold February morning in 1954. President Eisenhower sat across from beings that looked almost human, yet something about them made his skin tingle with awareness. These visitors stood nearly 7 feet tall, their skin pale as moonlight, their eyes holding depths that seemed to reflect centuries of wisdom. The lead ambassador spoke with a voice like distant thunder. His words came slowly, carefully chosen. They had watched humanity for generations, he explained. They had seen the wars, the suffering, the endless cycle of violence that plagued Earth. Now, they offered something extraordinary. "We bring gifts," the tall being said, gesturing with hands that seemed to glow faintly. technology that will end disease, machines that will feed your hungry, knowledge that will make your weapons unnecessary. Eisenhower's advisors shifted in their chairs. The promise hung in the air like electricity before a storm. Medical advances that could extend human life beyond anything imaginable. Energy sources that would power entire cities without cost or pollution. Transportation that could span the globe in minutes. But then came the condition that changed everything. Your nuclear weapons must go, the ambassador continued. All of them. Every missile, every bomb, every facility. We cannot share our knowledge with a species that holds such destruction. The silence stretched like a taut wire. General Curtis LeMay's jaw tightened. The military leaders exchanged glances that spoke volumes. Here was their greatest fear made real. These beings, however peaceful they claimed to be, were asking America to strip away its greatest defense. How do we know you won't turn against us once we're defenseless? Eisenhower asked, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. The ambassador's expression remained calm. Trust must begin somewhere. Your weapons bring only death. Our gifts bring life. For 3 days, the negotiations continued in secret. The Nordics, as the military had begun calling them, waited patiently, while Earth's most powerful leaders wrestled with an impossible choice. They could have paradise, but only if they abandoned the very weapons that made them feel secure in a dangerous world. The debates raged behind closed doors. Some advisors saw the offer as humanity's salvation. Others whispered of traps and hidden agendas. What if the Soviets refused to disarm? What if other hostile species existed among the stars? What if this was all an elaborate deception? As the hours passed, fear began to outweigh hope. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on every decision-maker in that room. The shadow deal, the Greys' arrival, and the secret treaty. The year was 1954. President Eisenhower faced a choice that would change everything. Behind closed doors, away from Congress and the American people, a different kind of visitor had arrived. These weren't the tall, peaceful beings from earlier encounters. The Greys were smaller, with ashen skin stretched tight over delicate frames. Their oversized black eyes held no warmth, no emotion that humans could recognize. They moved with purpose, carrying an offer that sparkled with promise and danger. Where the Nordic beings had spoken of spiritual growth and caution, the Greys presented something far more tempting. Advanced weapons, technology beyond human dreams, computer systems that could process information at impossible speeds, aircraft that could vanish from radar screens, materials stronger than anything on Earth. The price seemed simple enough. They wanted permission to study humans, to conduct their research in secret. They promised to share lists of those they took, to return them safely, to limit their numbers. Just a small exchange, they said. Knowledge for knowledge. Progress for cooperation. Eisenhower's advisors whispered in meeting rooms, thick with cigarette smoke. Military leaders saw weapons that could end the Cold War before it truly began. Scientists imagined breakthroughs that would leap humanity forward by centuries. The temptation proved too strong to resist. The agreement was signed in shadows. No photographers captured the moment. No historians recorded the details. Only a few men knew the full truth of what America had just agreed to. Almost immediately, strange things began happening. Workers at military bases reported seeing unusual aircraft with impossible flight patterns. Research facilities appeared overnight in remote deserts, their budgets hidden in black ink across government ledgers. Scientists found themselves working on projects they couldn't discuss, using materials they couldn't explain. The technology flowed as promised. Computer chips that shouldn't have existed for decades appeared in secret labs. Stealth technology that made aircraft invisible emerged from projects with names like code words. Fiber optic cables began carrying light faster than seemed possible. But the other side of the bargain proved far darker than anyone expected. Reports trickled in from farmers and travelers, people vanishing for hours or days, returning with strange marks and empty memories. Cattle found drained of blood in perfect surgical patterns. Families torn apart by experiences they couldn't prove or forget. The Greys had kept their word about sharing lists. But the numbers grew larger each year. What started as limited research became something far more extensive. Underground facilities expanded. Security clearances reached levels that didn't officially exist. America had traded its soul for stars, and the bill was coming due in ways no one had imagined. The shadow deal was complete. Humanity's path had shifted toward a future none could predict. Hidden in the depths, Dulce Base and the Underground War. Phil Schneider worked deep underground, where few humans ever go. He built tunnels and bases for the government in places most people never knew existed. For years, he kept quiet about what he saw down there. Then, something changed his mind forever. In 1979, Schneider was drilling beneath the desert near Dulce, New Mexico. The project seemed normal at first, just another military construction job in a remote location. But when his drill bit broke through into a large cavity, strange smells filled the air. The temperature dropped suddenly. Something was very wrong. What happened next would haunt Schneider for the rest of his life. As he descended into the underground chamber, he found himself face to face with creatures that should not exist. Gray beings with large black eyes stared back at him. They were not human. They were not friendly. The confrontation turned violent in seconds. Laser weapons fired in the darkness. Schneider barely escaped with his life, but not before losing several fingers to an alien weapon. 66 other humans died that day, he claimed. The government called it a construction accident. Schneider knew better. For years after Dulce, he remained silent. The government made sure of that. But by the 1990s, something inside him snapped. He began speaking at small gatherings, telling anyone who would listen about the underground war between humans and aliens. His voice shook when he described the multi-level bases stretching deep into the earth. Schneider painted a picture of secret facilities where humans and aliens worked together on projects too terrible to imagine. He spoke of genetic experiments, of hybrid creatures, of technology beyond our understanding. The deeper levels, he said, belonged entirely to the aliens. Humans were only allowed in certain areas, and even then, under strict supervision. The government, according to Schneider, had made a deal with these beings decades earlier. In exchange for advanced technology, they allowed the aliens to operate freely in their underground domains. But the partnership had gone wrong. Trust had broken down. Violence had erupted. Schneider's hands trembled as he showed audiences his scars. His missing fingers served as proof of his impossible story. Government agents followed him everywhere, he claimed. His phone was tapped. His life was in constant danger. In 1996, Phil Schneider was found dead in his apartment. The official cause was suicide, but those who knew him suspected otherwise. His final lectures had grown more desperate, more urgent. He seemed to know his time was running short. The truth about what really happened beneath Dulce Base died with him. Or did it? Whispers of conspiracy. William Cooper and the alien Illuminati. A former Navy officer sat in his desert home, typing words that would shake the world. William Cooper believed he had seen too much. He claimed the alien treaty was just the beginning of something far more frightening. Cooper whispered about secret meetings in underground rooms. He spoke of powerful men who controlled nations like chess pieces. These weren't just government officials. They were members of ancient groups that had existed for centuries, pulling strings from the shadows. The aliens, Cooper insisted, had not come to make simple deals. They had found perfect partners in Earth's most secretive organizations. Together, they formed what he called the Alien Illuminati. This group supposedly controlled banks, wars, and even the food people ate. Every major decision flowed through their hidden network. When stock markets crashed, they profited. When wars began, they supplied both sides. The alien technology gave them power beyond imagination. Mind control devices, weather manipulation tools, weapons that could destroy cities without leaving evidence. Cooper described meetings in places that didn't exist on any map. Underground cities where human leaders bowed to beings from distant stars. The treaty with President Eisenhower was merely a public ceremony. The real agreements happened in darkness, signed in languages no human tongue could speak. The former officer claimed these groups tested their control daily. Missing children disappeared into secret programs. Strange illnesses spread when they needed population control. Natural disasters struck when governments refused to obey their commands. But Cooper's most chilling revelation concerned the future. He believed the alien Illuminati planned to reduce Earth's population to manageable numbers. They would create chaos, then offer salvation. People would beg for their protection, willingly giving up freedom for safety. Cooper wrote books and gave lectures, warning anyone who would listen. He gathered followers who saw patterns in world events that others missed. Stock market timing seemed too perfect. Political scandals erupted exactly when needed. Wars ended just as mysteriously as they began. The truth-teller paid a terrible price for his words. Strange vehicles followed him. His phone made odd clicking sounds. Friends stopped calling, afraid of association. Cooper armed himself and rarely left his property. On a November night in 2001, law enforcement surrounded his home. Shots rang out in the Arizona darkness. William Cooper died that evening, silenced forever. Officials called it a tragic misunderstanding. His followers saw something far more sinister. The questions Cooper raised refused to die with him. Why do global events seem so perfectly orchestrated? Who really makes the decisions that shape our world? And somewhere in the desert night, his final words echo like a warning from the grave. Unveiling the unknown. The ongoing mystery and public disclosure. The world has changed since 1954. Back then, a handful of men could make secret deals in quiet rooms. Nobody asked questions. The press stayed silent. People trusted their leaders without doubt. Today is different. Cameras hide in every pocket. Information travels around the world in seconds. Secrets that once stayed buried for decades now surface in months. The old walls of silence are cracking. Military officers step forward with stories that should terrify us. They speak of craft that move without sound, technology that defies our understanding of physics. These are not wild tales from the fringe. These are trained professionals with top security clearance, risking their careers to tell us what they have seen. David Grush sat before Congress in 2023. He looked serious as he spoke about crash retrieval programs. He mentioned bodies that were not human. The room fell silent. Here was a former intelligence officer telling the world what many had whispered about for years. But something strange happens each time these stories emerge. The news cycle moves on. People get distracted. The moment of revelation passes like smoke in the wind. The military machine that built these secrets runs deep. Companies make billions from contracts we never see. They employ millions of people who sign papers promising never to speak. This web of money and silence has grown stronger over 70 years. Politicians promise transparency, then cite national security when pressed for details. They release fuzzy videos and vague reports. They give us just enough to spark curiosity, never enough to satisfy it. We live in a world where we can watch live streams from space, yet we cannot get straight answers about what flies in our own skies. The government admits these objects exist. They confirm they move in impossible ways, but they stop short of telling us what they really are. Young people today expect different things from their leaders. They want honesty. They push back against authority. They share everything online. This new generation may not accept the old rules of secrecy. The question hangs in the air like morning fog. Are we ready for the full truth about what happened in that desert meeting so long ago? Some say knowledge would unite humanity. Others worry it would shatter everything we believe about our place in the universe. The struggle continues. On one side, those who guard ancient secrets. On the other, those who demand answers. Between them lies a truth that could change everything we thought we knew about ourselves and our world.